Fontana, offering a bit of a discussion and a general reading. And as always, take what resonates within you. Let this be a starting point to expand your own awareness and continue your own research. So this comes from my research, experience, and discussions I've had. Please take what I say lightly and explore what feels a fit for you. So the topic on the table is gaslighting. Gaslighting and susceptibility, and not to cast blame on a victim, rather highlight the opportunity to heal and grow past the patterns of the past. And so what is gaslighting? I used to only think of gaslighting as that moment when someone would throw their words back at you, when you call someone on their shit and they turn around and flip it. But really extends beyond that, all this manipulative behavior. And I think one good example of it, if you need to see it, is the 1940s version of Gaslight. And this version is different from the 1944 MGM version that's got a little bit more drama to it. This version shows how a husband hid things from his wife, how he twisted her words, how he manipulated situations and even flirted in front of her, all the while making her believe she was the crazy one. So take a look at that. I'll put the link below. And we can gas someone up and we can gas someone down. And unfortunately, a lot of people will gas someone up just to break them down. I've been in that experience where I was like totally falling for something that someone had said to me, only to find out that that was just a bunch of drama to lure me in, and I took the bait. And we really don't know what we don't know. So again, sharing this in hopes that it expands your awareness to heal. Ideally, we don't build someone up just to break them down. Ideally, we build someone up to light the torch so that they can shine their way. And it's not about for personal gain, rather for the greater good of all. And it's sad, some people will break someone down for their own good. It's like a bulldozer chipping away at their self-esteem. And it can happen very slowly. And then by the time you get to a certain point, months down the road, it becomes more overt and more painful. And so what makes us susceptible? And this is when I asked myself this question, when I sat with it, this is what I got, is the idea of the context of the situation and our experiences from the past and illness. What do I mean by illness? Think about your immune system. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're more susceptible to disease, right? If there's a mental illness, there's a fog that filters the truth. And context of the situation, there was a period in my life where I was undergoing a lot of changes, unforeseen changes. It was like tower moment after tower moment. And here this human came in and it was like, give me some time. And before that, I was like totally blowing him off. But at that point, I was really vulnerable, and he got me. Experiences, well, you know, again, we don't know what we don't know. We can be naive and susceptible to someone else's words, behaviors, and actions when they don't have the pure intentions that we might assume that they have. Another context that's important to consider is power play. Is there a power dynamics in the relationship? Think about a husband and wife. If the husband's the breadwinner and the wife stays at home with the kids, there's a power dynamics. Money is power, right? If you're in the workplace, employer to employee, there's a power dynamics. And sometimes we like to cast the blame onto someone else. Who's going to take the heat? Who's going to take the rap for this? Who's going to do the work? There's power at play there. And so being mindful, if you're in a vulnerable situation, it's hard to speak up when there are power dynamics. Also, binding cycles, and this goes to we don't know what we don't know. If there's been abuse, the bar is low. If there's abuse and trauma, the bar is low, right? If there's been neglect, that means that if someone throws you a bone or breadcrumbs you, you think you've got a meal rather than like being like, oh, I'm not taking that shit, right? You don't have the highest standards. And oppression. We like to think that there's no glass ceiling. We like to think that there is not a gender wage gap, but it's there. And so taking into consideration the bigger picture of how we fit into a situation and how we might be blinded to our own truth and reality of what's coming our way. And I speak to discernment a lot. I pretty much say this, like, type it into all the IGT videos. Use your own discernment, you know. But really, inner and outer can be blurred. Again, we don't always know what we don't know. And so taking that moment to take that checkpoint to assess, what is my energy? What is my truth versus theirs? So what is your inner knowing outside of the outer influences? And can you take stock of the outer influences you've had and what's happening right now to start to level the playing field and see things clearly? I think the biggest thing we could do is know who you are. Who are you? I will never forget taking a training, and someone actually asked that question to me, and I was like stunned, because she's like, you don't know who you are. And it was true. It was true at that time, and it still is ever evolving, right? We're still learning, we're still growing. What are your standards? What will you accept and what will you reject? And maybe it's time to start rejecting some of the cultural certitudes, start rejecting when someone casts the blame, start rejecting when something doesn't meet your standards. And the truth is, you deserve better, right? And you have to live, you have to raise the bar. So what's coming into your field of awareness right now or in general? And I would say the biggest thing right now is probably, it's not you, it's them. And there are some of you that might be listening that might need to recap on some of your own behaviors, words, and actions, right? And we all get there. We all have that moment where you're like, whoa, I gotta take a look at myself. Oh, I need to readjust. Oh, I need to take accountability. So is your accountability about owning your truth and knowing, wait, I'm not taking that blame. Wait, I'm not taking that abuse. Wait, I deserve better. Don't piecemeal me, or don't breadcrumb me, right? Whatever it is for you, owning up to who you are and taking note of what's the inner, what's the outer, what's the yin, what's the yang, what's the black, white, shadow, light, whatever it is. And when you're assessing that, it's a challenge, right? Because our emotions get in the way and we have to learn to sift through all those layers. And anytime we do a self-assessment right now, it also means looking at everything in the past. And some of that past is historical context. It is social constructs. It's not all that personal part of ourselves, but all these layers that are cast on. And it can also be part of your family dynamics that were your norm that now you need to break free of. So what is the truth? What is, what needs to come up? What do you need to look at? And some considerations in this list, like all of these notes, are just a starting point. Is there jealousy? Is there cover up? Are there insecurities? A lot of times people flip the script when they're insecure and just don't have the balls to own up and take accountability for themselves. Are there secrets? And this is huge when there's been trauma in the family. Everyone likes to sweep things under the rug, and we, for some reason, protect a perpetrator and point our finger at a victim. And this happens in family dynamics. It also happens in communities. Look at the Me Too movement. We put the victim on the stand. What was she wearing? How was she flirting? No means no. No community should be covering that up and protecting someone who violated the rights of another human being. What are the patterns? What are the patterns? And this is easier said than done. I've spoken to women, and I've been there myself, where you stay somewhere because of the belief, not because of what's actually happening. You stay there because you want to believe. You want to believe that initial flutter of the heart you had when you first met them. You want to believe in the good times. But how many good times are you holding on to while you're ignoring all the flags in the present? And I'm so guilty of this. Oh my gosh, I have tripped over some red flags, barely dusted myself off and kept running. Whoa. And I think when we look at the patterns, we have to look at what's the lip service. Is someone just giving us some lip service? Is there follow through? What is the difference between the actions, accountability, and the follow through? Like, what's really happening here and what's happening over a consistent pattern? If there's cheating involved, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again, here are your flowers. And then you start to see a pattern pop right back up. Don't ignore that. Don't let someone flip that script. I could go on. They're saying maybe I should. I haven't always been the kindest human being, but I do feel like at this point, like, cheating is actually like a form of abuse. There's like mind games that get played. You're stirring with someone's emotions, their heart, and their physical body. Like, if someone believes they're in a monogamous relationship and you stray and you come back in, you're putting someone else's body at risk. That's bullshit. What are the facts? Set aside the emotions. It's that feeling of I love them and wanting to believe, and really looking at the cold hard facts. What's being brought to the table? What is that human bringing to the table? What is this partnership bringing to the table? And is it a bunch of bullshit? Clean it up. It's time to walk away from that. And I think this one's been hard for me, is to look at the focus of the conversation. And one way that I see a flip, I've seen it in other people and I've seen it with myself. When you finally speak up, something's wrong with you for speaking up, right? Or, and this one's so good, is, I'm gonna give you the example too. There was somebody I was dating and he was not, I wasn't the only one. And he was like, are you on your period? What? Like, my emotions at the time should not be the focus. You just went and spent a weekend with another woman. Like, what? Like, that's the one way they flip it. And so it's like deflecting accountability of the situation. And if they know your weak points because you have bonded, or they know you well enough to like put salt on your own wounds so that they can run in a different direction, they'll do it. So pay attention to the script. Notice how things are being deflected. Notice how you're being triggered. And things change a lot in the conversation when you're not as triggered. It just takes a long time to get there. And I had two other notes here for this. And this feels like a starting point for a whole new conversation. And I'm still kind of working out words to share with you and speak to this. But I want to say is that if there's telepathic communication, it doesn't mean green light. And I've done this when there is like signs, synchronicities. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a green light to jump into the connection. Spirit might be just giving you a warning sign that, hey, honey, you've been here before. Pay attention. And if you are getting feedback in the dream world, or if you receive telepathic communication, again, that is not a green light, and maybe you need to put up energetic boundaries, or perhaps you can learn from that rather than say, oh, this must be it because. No, I think we're receiving information quicker and in a different way. So really pay attention. Take that as a pause, notice what's around me and what can I learn from that, rather than like, let's go. So I haven't used this deck in a reading yet. This is the Divine Masculine Messages deck. So I'm not quite sure where we'll go with this. And as you know, I don't do twin flame readings. And that's kind of what this deck is about, is, you know, one of those does he love me readings. And I think for some of us that could be helpful. I'm not knocking anyone that gives those type of readings. It's just not something I do, which is why I'm like, we'll see where this goes. Okay. So frequency, the reason I wrote frequency is not how often they communicate with you. It's more of like energetic frequency. So what level are you working at? I don't know how to express myself. I know you're my soulmate. Okay, where are we going with this, Spirit? I said I didn't know where I was going. And the next bottom deck energy is, I'm seeing my toxic patterns. And so perhaps someone knows that there's a connection. A soulmate doesn't mean that they are the one. We can have many different people in our lifetime, and when we feel that energetic pull, okay, this is where they're going with frequency, we might believe that there's more to it. Actually, there could be a lesson learned, and sometimes that lesson is that boundary. Sometimes that lesson is that connection, and you build it, and you build it with the right foundation. But really feeling within and noticing what is that pull and what's associated with that. And really, do we know how to talk about how we feel? And do we really feel comfortable saying, you know, I messed up? No, these aren't comfortable conversations to have. And perhaps when someone is deflecting, they actually see their toxic patterns, but who wants to admit to that? Who wants to say that? And so perhaps they know that we know on some level that there's love. We know on some level there's a connection, but we really don't know what it is or what it's about. And so we feel it out. We do our best, but sometimes we throw the kitchen sink, right? Sometimes we play games. And those are the toxic patterns that were brought here to... You are brought here to reinvent yourself beyond those toxic patterns, and to learn to express yourself and begin to discern who is your wound mate, who is your soulmate, who is your lover, and who is your life partner. And can you see beyond what you want to believe, honor those red flags, and set a new course, a new trajectory for your life, new standards. And so next bottom deck energy is I'm fighting for us. And will you fight for yourself? And so when you take that stand, excuse me, in the relationship, whether that's walking away, setting a boundary, setting new standards, you are actually clearing the karma of that connection from the last lifetimes or previous lifetimes. Let me say that. It's not a matter of this time we get it right. It's not about this time we get it right. It's about faith and forgiveness. Thank you. That's big. These are a little, I haven't used these cards too much, but they have some really interesting ways of depicting some of the cups that I think would be beneficial in this. Ace of Wands, what's the passion? What's lighting your fire? And have you been in a toxic pattern? I've been there where you just want to fight, right? Fight a good fight. I spent so much time fighting my guides. There was one time I kind of sat with them and I just apologized. I mean, I was in tears. I'm like, I'm so sorry. They're like, we needed someone to fight. I'm like, oh, you're so kind. Because sometimes we like to fight, but really, what do you want to build and grow? It's the Aries in me. All right, this isn't what I expected to see come out. So what's your passion? Okay, now I see it. Okay, so sometimes that passion and pull to a person we mistaken for something else, right? Right? Okay, you gotta think with your head up here. That's what they're telling me. You gotta think up here. And I know we think about like feeling it out, but when it comes to the Ace of Wands and moving past patterns, you gotta think with your between your ears brain and not below the belt. Thank you for that. So what do you want to build in your empire? What do you want to shield yourself in? What are you fighting? And what are you going to sit with? And first and foremost, you have to sit in your power and know who the fuck you are so that you know what to fight, what to let in. And you want to fight through your own inner resistance to break free of the patterns, not fight people just because you don't know how to work with your own demons. When I say demons, it's more like the shadow work and those patterns themselves. And I really believe we learn from the inside out. Like spirit puts out that mirror for you to learn and to grow. And when you are so busy fighting yourself, I'm gonna reshuffle that, it shows itself on the outside. And I think there is one talk. She's been interviewed from a few people, but I think Lewis Howes is the first time I had seen her, and she talked about that. She was like, I was starting to pick fights with everyone, and she's like, I saw a pattern. It was me picking all the fights. All right, so Queen of Diamonds, bottom deck energy, High Priestess, the Joker is the top deck. So trust your intuition, even though I'm saying that with the High Priestess. Think you need to work between the lines of the shadow and the light. To discern, you need to love yourself through the shadow and the light. They keep showing this again, the yin and yang. It's that balance within. We cannot reject our shadow. You cannot reject the pain. It will seep out in funky ways. But at the same time, it's not all like love and light. There is this balance. And I've been there where it's like everything has to be great. I had a friend named to be like, how you doing, Christelle? I'd be like, I'm fantastic. He'd be like, you're not fucking fantastic. And that's what I needed to do at the time, was to only believe that I was fantastic, because I wasn't ready to look at the shadow. And so what are you attaching to your experience that really you can break free of to see a new, allow a new side of yourself to come through, and allow that to come from your intuitive nature bubbling up. And then as you work through your intuitive side, balancing between the I don't know why they're saying right, left, but right, left, good, bad, inside, out, yin, yang, whatever it is, you'll see something new nurtured in the material realm. And so it is about rolling up your sleeves and like getting to work and making it happen. And you have all it takes to make it happen. Don't be afraid of the work it takes, because you're gonna feel so good once you break free of that. And of course there's like, once you get through that layer and you're like, well, there's more to work with. There's always something more to do, something more to grow through. Is there anything else? Anything else? How do you know who's your soulmate and who's not? That's the question they're asking me. That's a good question. And I feel like it's that place where it's, now I see these two cards differently. Okay. There's something different in the spark. There's an inner knowing that is beyond your toxic patterns. It's not that place that has you fighting resistance within yourself, to where instead of knowing how to express yourself, like you don't know how to express yourself, it's like you almost don't need to, because you're at the same frequency, not to be confused with getting messages from someone. So there's this tricky dance. And while the passions can be alluring, your own energy is what you want to see through. And who brings out the best in you? Who brings out the best in you? One thing that happens, I feel like we're in partnership, whether or any conversation, you are able to see yourself anew. You're able to feel yourself out in a new way. And who brings you to light in their presence? Anything else? So it's time to work as though you haven't worked. It's like finding a new way to work, breaking grounds on a new way of being. And so it's up to you to level the playing field. Calling yourself a victim, throwing blame, casting a shadow isn't the work that you need to do. Your own work is within you that they want to see, and that's what's going to change the trajectory. And I'm just seeing this kind of like breaking open Superman kind of cape action, so it's not this like, and now I'm seeing like a butterfly in a cocoon. So it's about wrapping yourself in the energy you need to heal yourself, to then expand your own state of being, to bring something forth, so that you bring the passion not in. And while the aces are kind of like this new beginning, they're this yes, but on the flip side of a quick yes or a one night stand, you've got this Emperor energy. And what do you want to see through for you? No one human being is the end all be all for you. You have to be that for yourself, and then you attract a new frequency that then it's not the conversations you have with that person and the messages you receive come in a different frequency than you might have experienced in the past. It's just, everything's groundbreaking, and you have to make that choice to level up. Six of Wands is the next bottom deck energy, which is your victory. And the High Priestess is under there. So 2 High Priestesses. So learning what your intuition is telling you, learning how Spirit is communicating with you with signs and synchronicities, learning what your patterns are to break free of them, and being aware that some of those are superimposed from childhood, neglect, abuse, and the way that society functions. And it's time to reinvent what we accept as a norm and grow free. Well, I think that's it for now. Anything else? Be willing to own your patterns and redirect. And that's the place you'll come from in common ground, and find the love that you need to see yourself through in the light. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Satnam.